Hello, I'm Kerr. Welcome to my art studio. Complementary colours is what we're looking at today, and I want to show you how they can both help you or hinder you sometimes when you're doing your paintings. So, are you ready? If you're already using complementary colours and you understand them and you know how to use them, then you may not gain any more information from this particular video. But if you're a little bit confused about complementary colours, then let me take you back to basics and I'll show you exactly how they work. Now, we all know that the most useful colours to have in our paint boxes are reds, yellows and blues. Why? Because we can't actually make those colours ourselves by mixing any other colours together. And depending on which red, which yellow and which blue you've chosen will depend on the huge range of colours you can make from this. If I had chosen a magenta instead of a scarlet, the range of colours I could make would be very different. So just to keep it really simple today, we're just going to look at a red, a yellow and a blue when we talk about complementary colours. Okay, so I'm sure you've all seen one of these. Now don't panic. I am not going to launch into masses of colour theory. I can't think of anything more boring. Colour theory is something we pick up as we go along. You can't learn it all in one lesson. It's completely impossible. So use this as a tool to refer to from time to time. Now, you've probably got one of these somewhere. You might use it, you might not, I don't know. It's just a very useful thing to have. So let's look at our first colour, which is red. And if we look directly opposite red on the colour wheel, we've got green. So red is the complement of green and green is the complement of red. Now, those of you that know me from old know I love my little models. So we'll put our little discs on there and you will see why in a minute. Now the next colour was blue. And if you look at blue on the colour wheel, directly opposite blue is orange. So blue is the complement of orange, orange is the complement of blue. Let's put our little discs on there. Great this, isn't it? And our last colour was yellow. And if you look opposite yellow, you've got violet, or if you prefer, purple. So yellow is the complement of violet and violet is the complement of yellow. And there again, we'll put our little discs on. I couldn't get an exact match there, but that'll do for now. So let's get rid of the colour wheel. I told you I wasn't going to lumber you with lots of colour theory, didn't I? And let's put our little discs in order. Now, if we look at those when they're next to each other, this is what we call complementary. If you put them next to each other, they almost jump off the page. If you had red flowers on a green background, the red and green, because they complement each other, they show each other up. If I gave you a compliment, it would make you feel good, wouldn't it? Well, the red is making the green feel good and the green is making the red feel good. Likewise with blue and orange. If I had blue flowers on an orange background, it would just about jump off the page. And if I had yellow flowers, let's put it this way around, if I had yellow flowers on a purple background, they would jump off the page because they complement each other. They make each other look very bright and very strong. Now that's fine if they're sitting next to each other, but what happens with complementary colours if we actually mix them up together? Well, let's do just that. So the first complementary colours we're going to mix up is red and green. Now, when you mix up red and green, you'll get a neutral. You get a browny colour. Now you can bend this towards the red by adding some more red to it, or you could bend it towards the green by adding more green to it, but it will still make what we call a neutral, a greyish colour or a brownish colour. And the next pair of complementary colours we talked about was blue and orange. Here we have blue. And here we have orange. Let's mix them up together. And again, we've got this neutral colour, this browny greyish colour. We can bend it towards the blue if we want to, or we can bend it towards the orange to make a bluey grey or an orangey grey. But you'll still get these neutral colours. And the last one we had was violet and yellow, or purple and yellow if you prefer. So let's have some violet and let's have some yellow. And let's mix those up. And here again we've got a neutral colour. We've got a browny greyish colour. You can bend it towards the violet by adding more violet, or you could bend it towards the yellow by adding more yellow. But it's still going to be a neutral colour. Now you could call them mud, I suppose. They can be beautiful colours on their own, but they are going to be neutral colours. So we know now that our complementary colours, if we have them next to each other, they look beautifully bright and strong and they complement each other. But if we mix them up together, we get these neutral colours, and colours that we may not actually want. Okay, so now let's use these three colours to do some mixes, bearing in mind what we've just discovered. And we've just discovered that when we let a complementary colour creep into our mixes, it turns everything a greyish brown. So if we want to mix up red and yellow, which will make orange, we know that the complementary colour to orange is blue. So the last thing we want, if we want a lovely bright orange, is for any blue to creep into our mix. So we need to choose a red and a yellow to make our orange that do not have any blue in it. So looking in our paint box, I could choose a colour like scarlet. There's no blue in that. It's basically a yellowish red. So I'll choose that for my red. And I want a yellow that doesn't contain any blue. So I'm going to use my quinacridone gold. And that certainly hasn't got any blue in it. There it is. So if I mix those up together, I'm going to get a beautiful, bright orange. Because there's no complementary blue in there. Blue's the complement to orange. There's no complementary blue in there to make my orange turn a muddy, brownish grey. So there's my lovely bright orange. So just to prove what we've just done, let's now mix up orange with a red and a yellow that have got blue in them. So we'll use a crimson, which is a very cold red. There's a lot of blue in there. And we'll use lemon yellow, which is the coolest of my yellows. That's my lemon yellow, and we mix those up. And we'll put that next to it. You've got a much more muted colour. Here we've got a lovely bright clean colour, and here you've got a much duller, more muted colour, because the colours I used to make this one contained a little bit of the complement. They contained a bit of blue, so they turned it slightly muddy. Let's do the same thing with green. If I want a really bright, clear, crisp green, remember that the complement to green is red. So the last thing I want in my mix is any red, because it'll turn it muddy. So in order to make a very bright green, I need to keep away from the reds. So yellow and blue make green, so I need a yellow and blue that do not have any red in them. So again, I'm going to use my lemon, because there's no red in that, and I'll use my cobalt blue, which is a fairly neutral blue. Get this lovely bright clear green. Wow. So let's prove the theory again. Let's mix up a green now that does contain some of the complement, which is red, and see what we get. Now if I use a very warm yellow, which is leaning towards the red, so I'm going to use my raw sienna, and I'm going to use a blue that's got red in it, which is my ultramarine. There we go. A much more muted colour, a much duller colour, because we've introduced a little bit of the complement into our green mix, and it dulls it down. It neutralises it. And we'll do the last one, which is violet, or if you prefer, purple. So that's the colour we're going to make. And we know that the complementary colour is yellow. So the last thing we want creeping into our mix is yellow, because it will turn it muddy. So we know that red and blue are going to make our purple or our violet. So we want a red or a blue that do not have any yellow in them. So I'm going to choose a red, which is my quinacridone rose. And there's certainly no yellow in that. And I'm going to choose my ultramarine blue. And there's certainly no yellow in that. So there we have a lovely bright violet-y colour. So again, let's prove the theory. Let's now let some of the complementary yellow creep into the violet and see what happens. So now I'm going to choose a red and a blue that do have some yellow in them. So I'm going to use my scarlet, because this red really has got quite a bit of yellow in it. And I'm going to use my cerulean blue, because that's quite a yellowy blue. There we go. I think you can see that as long as we don't let the complementary colour creep into our mixes, we can keep our mixes nice and bright and clear. If we want a more muted, quiet mix, then we allow the complementary colour to creep in. So 3 ways in which we can use complementary colours. We can sit them next to each other in a painting so that one makes the other look really bright and strong and interesting. We can mix them up together in our palettes to make some neutral colours like greys and browns. Or we can keep in the back of our mind what the complementary colour is when we're doing some mixes, so that if we want a bright colour, we use paints that don't contain the complementary, and if we want a more muted colour, we use paints that do contain a bit of the complementary. Now, you can use complementary colours in other ways. You can use them to select colour schemes, and I am going to make a video later on about colour schemes because one of my viewers has requested it. So we will revisit colour schemes at a future date. If you've enjoyed this video and it has been useful for you, then consider clicking that subscribe button and the little bell icon, because that lets you know when I upload another video for you. If you've enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Remember, there is an artist in everyone. Goodbye for now.